As a heart-centered and purpose-driven woman, your devotion is one of the most important things to stay connected to and to really keep in alignment to your heart and your soul. And I want to share a really powerful experience I had yesterday around this. It's something I come back to often and not often enough. And it always surprises me how deep these layers go when you begin to look at the things you have been devoting to, and if they are actually of the highest good, if they are actually truly aligned to your mission and your purpose, and if they are supporting you in being in a state of unconditional love and this open channel to the divine. All these things that, all humans have the ability to do, but especially as women, it's so much of our innate superpower and our innate gifts that we have been given. So let's get into this. Maybe make, I'm enjoying a cup of cacao. I was going to say, make a cup of cacao or something while you're listening to this, or enjoy the sound of the birds in the background if you hear them. It is early morning, and this is the beautiful song that they sing at this time. So, on this planet, we have been programmed in so many ways to outsource and to give power away. And as I mentioned, one of the really beautiful powers of the feminine is her devotion to the highest. It is truly in the feminine's ability to see the highest outcome for all, to see the what might look like an unrealistic future or an unrealistic vision for the world. That is something that the feminine holds and carries and can help birth on the planet. And the masculine comes into play with assisting with the doing, the building, the actual structural foundation of making these changes. And this can be your own inner masculine and inner feminine, or it can be the external masculine and external feminine. It works both ways, and obviously we all have both. We all have both aspects. But the feminine characteristic has this beautiful connection to source, and it comes through her emotions, it comes through her heart space, it can come through her womb and her connection to the portal that bridges realms. But she has this ability to see or feel or just deeply know what is possible. And it's in this vision, as I said, that huge changes can be created. If you're listening to this and if you're in my world, then I know you likely have these really big dreams and you have these aspirations or ideas and ways that your natural giftings and life experience and passions can be cultivated in a way that supports even bigger than yourself. It transcends the service to self desire, and it extends to your family, your loved ones, your babies or potential babies, your community, your friends, potentially the entire world, right? This possibility to play a meaningful role and support and benefit others by being you. Most likely that's something that is on your heart. I know it's always been on mine. And since I focus so much on purpose and helping women align with that and turn their passions into a purposeful life, I'm just going to make the the wild claim and bold assumption that you can relate to that. Now, where we get into the interesting thing is that in our whole life because of the different programming, because of the ways we have been influenced, and because of the really outdated systems and pain based operating systems, the lower level templating that has been playing out. Most of us have disconnected from the heart and soul and that full trust in that bigger vision, and we have been distracted. We have been taught to look externally, to focus on potentially, martyring, saviorism, um, abandoning ourselves or sacrificing our highest good to try to fit in or please someone else or get the approval and love that we so desperately desire, all because these wounds have been passed on, and all because of the original separation wound, which is the disconnect from the living God and the disconnect from knowing in every cell of your body that you are loved and held by the Creator, and that this Creator didn't design you and put you here for struggle and didn't abandon you, and is truly here every step of the way, wanting nothing more than to have a deep and loving relationship with you, and to see you remembering who you are, remembering all that you came here to be, and to assist you, to guide you in uncovering and unlocking the gifts, unlocking the power that you hold, the strength, and bringing it in the most beautiful, divine ways. But we've been so disconnected from this Creator, and I was reflecting on it a few days ago now because I wrote a post and I was thinking about, as a little girl, how even though I grew up with a very atheist mother who didn't believe in anything, just believed once you die, you're buried in the ground or burnt into ashes, and like that's it. And that terrified me. And I grew up with a very spiritual kind of out there dad who was very much into karma, into reincarnation, into Earth being a school and the soul's just here to learn and experience. And, he had his beliefs about aliens and extraterrestrials and just the expansion of life that existed. So it was like two very opposing belief systems, very confusing for me, but I always resonated more with what my dad believed, and I always knew that I wasn't just here for X number of years and then to die and that's it. Like, I had this deep feeling of that, but I had such a deep desire to commune with God and to have a relationship with God, even though I didn't really know what that was, what it would mean or look like. It wasn't ever modeled to me by either of my parents. I'm not even sure where or how I got the idea because none of my friends really had any beliefs about God or were religious or anything. Like, it wasn't even in my vicinity growing up, but I just had this desperate desire to know God. And every night I could be by myself, I could be having a sleepover with friends. I remember I'd be like, just give me a moment, I need to say my prayers. And I would sit there or lay there in bed and I would like pray through my entire day, and my literal brain would go through literally every single moment in the day and thank God for it and just be so grateful. And then afterwards I would have my asks and my requests and like my wishes of, can you help me win the soccer game tomorrow because I'm really stressed about it, or like make so and so like me, you know? I'd have my little wishes, but every night I made time. And it was actually, as I'm saying this now, I'm realizing that was actually like my first practice of devotion without even knowing what I was doing. It just felt so important to me to make that time. Granted, yes, I also was hoping for the wishes to come true. And so there was maybe this like give and take with it. But the purity that came through in the gratitude first and in the really sitting here, being present, taking the time to acknowledge the gift of all these moments throughout my day was very helpful for me. And it's something I've been coming back to more and more as I finally, over the last few years have begun to deepen my connection to God and open up about that and actually speak about it without fear of judgment or, yeah, any of the programming I had around that. But that's another story. So, when we are disconnected from God, we begin to devote to uh, immortal things, things that, no, mortal. We begin to devote to mortal things, things that are not eternal, things that just exist in the here and now, the materialistic things, the things that can actually be taken away in any moment, right? And you can think of this in your own life with so many examples, and I'll list off a bunch of my own. But you think about the deep desire or craving that, I don't get this anymore, but I used to be addicted to having the newest phone. Like, I would get obsessed, crazy obsessed. I would do whatever it took, save the money, have to buy the newest phone. Because the materialism, the marketing, the feeling that that would make me special or enough or mean something about me. I was devoted to this mortal object, this thing that literally could break. I'd drop it in the toilet and then it would be gone, and I'd need to get a new one. Actually, quite a waste, really. And yet, I was putting all my value into it. Or mortal things such as relationships and people, and typically from that wound of the feminine heart, that abandonment or that disconnect from the masculine aspects of God, we can end up devoting to men in ways that aren't healthy or helpful or supportive. So I think of ways that I would just be devastated and in this huge emotional collapse because the guy that I liked, that I thought for sure was interested in me, wasn't. And it was like I had devoted and given so much energy or attention, and even people I wasn't in relationships with, but I had been like crushing on for ages and making up this big story in my mind about how they smiled at me and it meant, we were in love. And I would give my devotion to that person instead of giving it to God. Okay? And the pain, heartbreak, collapse, as I said, would be so deep when I didn't end up having it, or I ended up still being abandoned or in lack. I also noticed this happen with money and with my business. So, as you're listening to this, I invite you to really reflect on like what are the things you've given your devotion away to that didn't serve you, and really pay attention to the emotions it created. If you gave devotion to something and felt really good after, then chances are it was actually something that was truly aligned for your highest good or your life's purpose, or something that God had designed and was meant for you. But the times where there's extreme pain or heartache, or we end up looping in our mental body and in the mind in the stories, or looping and collapsing in the emotional body, and the grief or the unworthiness, the shame, the guilt, those are typically times when we are devoted to things that were mortal, things that were not actually the highest good, things that were distracting or taking our attention, our focus, our life force, energy, our love. So as you reflect on that for yourself, you'll hopefully get a very clear, T chart or like a line in the sand of these are things I devoted to that felt beautiful and aligned and really filled my cup. And these are things I devoted to that actually really hurt me and potentially caused a lot of pain and suffering. And I don't want you to beat yourself up for those. I want it to be the lesson and the acknowledgement of, ooh, yeah, why did I devote to that thing? And how can I ensure that I don't do that again and I don't cause myself this kind of pain or suffering again? Another simple example can be stuff with scrolling or external validation and like needing the likes or the attention from certain people, or just in general, or the dopamine hits that we chase after because we want that quick fix. And God doesn't operate that way. God can, but I would say from my experience, it's typically in the slow burn and the slow build. And learning to really appreciate every moment, every step, every growth curve to get to the desire, to get to the highest calling. That's what God is gifting you with, because that's where all the opportunities are for your soul's evolution. The immediate dopamine hit and instant validation or instant satisfaction is typically not something that lasts, which is why then we chase it and we need it again and again and again, and we end up devoting to that lower level pattern and loop in the program, really. So I have it's a weird addiction, but like for a while, right before the pandemic hit, I came across card readings on YouTube for my zodiac sign, and I became addicted to them because if you've ever seen them, it's this super catchy title about like the love of your life is appearing tomorrow, you gotta watch this, or like the floodgates of abundance are coming this month, and like it's very much dopamine hits. And during that year, like it's only been in the last year that I finally started to break it. It was like a 3-year addictive loop where I could still be accomplishing so much in my day and my life and my business, but at one point at the beginning, I would have these horoscope card readings playing almost all day in the background, and it would just be like one to the next to the next. And that's another perfect example of not only like the algorithm and the loops we can get pulled into, but a devotion to something that isn't God, right? Instead of connecting to my heart and soul, doing my meditation, my breath work, praying, connecting to God, getting down on my knees and devoting and asking for support, surrendering my life, literally putting myself in in a space where God could move through me, and devoting to the Most High. I was devoting to an addiction and a dopamine hit and something that kept me temporarily satisfied, but then always depleted and always lacking. And it would boost me up, and I'd like see this catchy title that my ego loved about money or love or travel or whatever. And then when that didn't actually come to fruition, I would collapse again. And then I'd see another one, I'd be like, oh, it's actually coming. Like, this is the person. And then I would collapse. It wouldn't happen, right? And this constant roller coaster where I was basically, my energy is being siphoned, my mood is up and down, and um, dependent on this external factor instead of dependent on my internal state of being and my internal connection to the Creator. So I didn't even get into the topic, which was going to be sharing about just what came through for me yesterday. I was doing one of my quantum healing hypnosis activations, which is about the devotional codes and really looking at what I've just shared with you, of acknowledging, like, where have I given my sacred devotion away to things that were not supportive, and acknowledging that and handing that over to God, asking for forgiveness and releasing it, and then devoting yourself to God and truly being like, use me, let me be this channel for you to flow through. Let me not be distracted by these mortal things, these materialistic things that could be taken in an instant. Money or jobs, titles and status. We have been programmed to attach to these as if it's the end all be all, when in reality, as we saw with the pandemic and everything, like, that can literally be taken away in a second. And if we don't have a deep connection to God, we are going to collapse so hard when that gets taken from us. Or I think of someone in my life a few years ago. Actually, I thought he was potentially my one, even though we never met in real life. But the card readings on YouTube told me I was going to meet my person, and then he showed up, and I thought, whoa, oh my gosh, this is it. Anyway, all of a sudden, I was giving all this devotion, just adding into the story, and things seemed good, and then he disappeared, and I realized, wow, I've been devoting to someone who, like, actually I wasn't even that interested in. I just thought I should, or thought like maybe this would make me feel loved, etc. Anyway, he came back around a while after that and opened up and shared about an experience in his life, and his business had just had massive success, just moved to Dubai and bought a place there, and like hitting like millions of dollars. And then things stopped and things suddenly slowed down, and the amount of pressure and weight, all these things that fell on his shoulders and took him into a spiral of depression and really a really dark place. And it's a perfect example, obviously a masculine body, but a perfect example of all his devotion had been into these materialistic things. And we can't take the materialistic when we die. We also can't control if we can keep it. No, you can hold on to it so tightly, and it still could be taken from you or disappear, or something could happen, right? So if we don't have a foundation of a connection to the Creator, then we're totally rocked in those moments. And it does create those potential dark night of the soul moments, those moments where you're on your knees crying for hours on the bathroom floor, begging for solace and reprieve and support because it's too hard to get through. And what I've found over the years, and what I'm still continuing to anchor into and surrender to more, is that when you have the foundation with God and you have that relationship to God, it's okay if those materialistic things don't show up, because they're no longer the focus. The devotion and power isn't given to that, it's given to the Creator, it's given to the immortal, the eternal. And it's this beautiful connection from your heart and soul directly up to, or it doesn't have to be up, but just like visually, that makes sense to me. But obviously, God is like all around. But just seeing like this cord or this string of energy that's like directly connecting you to God. And so when you have that and you're walking through life with that, think of the power, the eternal power that you hold. Think of the safety in your body that you hold, the ability to relax into the moment, knowing that you're held and you're not doing it alone. And that is truly the greatest connection we could ever possibly create or come back to. We don't need to create it, it's already there. We just need to acknowledge it and welcome it back in. So it was profound for me yesterday because, as I said, every time I do this practice, it's usually the same layers, but a deeper layer of it, or the same themes, but a deeper layer of it. And every time I go, ooh, yeah, these were patterns or these were cycles. And for me, it truly came from that core abandonment wound. And for you, it might be something else. But really inviting you to notice, where can I start to give my devotion back to God? Because God is the ultimate creator and is going to bring you what is meant for you. So why devote to the money, which is just a physical manifestation of energy from God? It's an energy flow of the creator. And God decides who is bringing it into your life, who is the channel, how it's circulating in and out. But money itself isn't the thing to be devoted to or to cling to. God is, right? Just like the person, the partner, the desire. It's like, if that's a mortal thing that you can truly never control, no matter how hard you try to, no matter how badly you want to cling and hold it tight, you can't keep it. And losing my brother was a perfect example of that. Like realizing that no matter what I wanted or desired or imagined for our life together, and both of us having families and growing old together and sharing the cabin, and him kind of pulling the older brother card and fighting me for it, or trying to like get extra days there in the summer, and me having to be like, no, I'm like, we're sharing this. Like, these things that I envisioned being a part of our life suddenly gone made me realize that the materialistic things can slip through the fingers no matter how tightly you're holding it, no matter how badly you want it. So, what do we have at the end of the day if the physical is just temporary? Well, we have the energetic, we have soul, we have connection to source. So bring your devotion to that. Bring your devotion to the one thing that exists beyond all time, space, dimensions, and realities. The one thing that is eternal. And this is so challenging for the mind that has been programmed otherwise. And it's so challenging when we live in an environment where very few people are doing this. And most people are devoted to the material, devoted to the dopamine hit, devoted to the temporary hit of satisfaction and the chase. But you will never find freedom in that. And that's why most people struggle and suffer. So if you can be the woman who remembers that there's so much more, and if you can devote to that, stay in your heart, you're going to notice that God will move miracles through you and through your life. If this is something you're looking for extra support on, this is part of my Empower bundle inside my Quantum Healing Hypnosis bundles, which is all about personal empowerment, taking up space, knowing your worth, and connecting to your divine birthright, which obviously is also deeply connected to God. And when we devote to the immortal, eternal consciousness of the living God, we truly do empower ourselves. We take on a new level of ownership and deep knowing, and we get to take up space in the world in a completely new way because you have become whole regardless of external circumstances. It's why you can walk into a room and look and feel like the richest person in there, even if you have $10 in your bank account. And I've been that person, so I'm proof of that feeling and that experience of like, it's a way you feel, it's a wealth that comes from God, a different level of coding. So that is true empowerment. That is true sovereignty and um, ability to then live out the things you're here for, to stay in your heart, to create from that space, and really, really move mountains with the assistance, not just all on your own, hustling and forcing. So there's a link to check out the Empower bundle if you're looking for help doing this with the deep quantum healing work to clear out the energetic signature, to shift blocks or anything that's in the way holding you back from that, as well as reprogram your subconscious mind to support you moving forward. And I hope this was so helpful. I hope this message landed in exactly whatever way you needed it. And I hope it helps spark the reminder and the inspiration to devote to something bigger, devote to something so much bigger than what has been normalized. Be the exception and be the inspiration of what is possible when you live from this space. And I'm sending you so much love. I will see you again soon, and have the most beautiful day.